going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort, and China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Samson, coming live from us from a volcano, because they're called volcano bonds to a certain extent, because it's going to be financing this Bitcoin city that's surrounding this area of a volcano. And I'm wondering why any institutional bond investor would buy this.
Well, why wouldn't they?
Because it's got a 6.5% yield, and your yield on your current bonds of El Salvador that come due in 10 years is 13%.
Yes, but this bond has a Bitcoin component, and that is why it is called a Bitcoin bond. So when El Salvador is raising $1 billion in this first bond issuance, 500 million will be used to acquire Bitcoin, and then 500 million will go towards energy and mining infrastructure. So there is this war chest of Bitcoin backing this bond. And that dividend or that coupon actually increases after the 5th year. So for the first 5 years, it will be a 6.5% coupon. But then it accelerates to what I call a Bitcoin dividend, or a special dividend that is basically the Bitcoin being sold off, the $500 million worth of Bitcoin being sold off gradually, quarter by quarter.
Yeah.
So the El Salvador government will share that with the bondholders.
Why wouldn't, if a institutional bond investor was allowed to buy into this, so had the ability within the rules of the fund they invest to have exposure to crypto, why wouldn't they just buy Bitcoin straight up rather than have a 50% take?
Well, they could buy Bitcoin straight up, but usually the mandates or charters don't allow them to hold cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin.
But they'd be allowed to hold these bonds, you think, in their mandates?
Why not? It's just a bond.
But it's not just a bond, because it's related to Bitcoin, and as you say, 50% of it over a 5-year time frame, if indeed you manage to pay that back, would be able to be given based upon Bitcoin now. So do you think those mandates would allow them to buy in?
Well, that's really for them to figure out. But we're trying to structure this in a way that they can present it to their boards, their directors as a normal bond, because it is a normal bond that just happens to have a large chunk of Bitcoin behind it. But even if they don't buy it, I don't really see a problem. There is Bitcoin's market cap is over $1 trillion. There's about $145 billion worth of stablecoins, and this is just from the Bitcoin industry, traders, whales, and this money will just pour in. I was in Turkey talking to my friend, the CEO of BTC Turk, Oscar, and I told him about this plan. I told him I'm going to El Salvador next, and I told him about the bonds. And in 2 seconds, he said, I'm in for $1 million. And then I said, are you sure you don't want to think about it? Do you want to see the specs? Do you want to read more? And he's like, no, this is for the people of El Salvador. So the money will come in. There's another whale that I talked to just before coming on your show, and he said, I'll take 20 million of it. So,
but Samson, is it not wrong to think that people shouldn't do their due diligence first?
Yeah, they should do their due diligence, but there is an important part here, which is helping El Salvador and fixing the money supply. And I think that's more important than the exact specifications on a bond.
So you think, even without institutional bond investors, if they are perhaps driven away by the fact that the yield is so low relative to existing bonds, or indeed they can't have exposure to Bitcoin, Do you think it will be, who will be the actual investor? It will be more crypto-focused enthusiasts and they'll be good for 1 billion?
I think there's more money than $1 billion that's going to flood into this bond.
Wow.
The institutional investors, they can come in, like they can do their due diligence. 6.5% is in line with most bonds around the world. And there is that special Bitcoin dividend. So they can run the calculations. Like if at the end of 10 years, Bitcoin is $1 million, we've done a calculation where Bitcoin's appreciating 35% year over year, then the yield that year will be about 90% plus the 6.5% coupon. But if it goes higher, we had another conservative model which put it at 140% APY plus the 6.5% coupon. Then it's a pretty attractive bond by any measure.
Definitely versus bonds versus crypto, which, I mean, Bitcoin is up on an annualized basis 240%. So you might be therefore losing out to the opportunity cost of just getting into Bitcoin related exposure rather than going into this bond. But Samson, I'm interested that you're in Turkey, you're in El Salvador. Are there other countries, other areas, municipalities looking at this with, dare I say it, perhaps political risks that some just don't always willingly swallow?
Well, there's risk in everything. Even buying Bitcoin comes with risk. And it's really just up to people to make their own decisions and take their own analysis on it, DYOR. I think there's a lot of interest. We've already had some institutional investors reach out to Blockstream, and they're very, very interested in this offering. And I guess that means that their mandate would allow them to buy this bond.
You talk about accelerate hyperbitcoinization and bring a new financial system built on top of Bitcoin. Can you just dissect what that means?
Well, hyperbitcoinization just means you don't need to go back to fiat currencies. You can just buy Bitcoin and stay in Bitcoin and spend Bitcoin. And El Salvador is a key part of that, right? Bitcoin is legal tender here, so you can buy Pupusa with a Lightning network, and you can just spend Bitcoin freely. And Bitcoin City is going to be a very attractive place, I believe, for a lot of Bitcoiners.
Meanwhile, though, of course, relations with the US and El Salvador, from a government perspective, seem to be unraveling. They're hitting yet a further low at the moment. There are, of course, worries of relationships between El Salvador and the IMF. Does any of that matter to some of the investors that you're talking to?
No. I don't think a lot of these organizations like the IMF or World Bank are really relevant in a world based on Bitcoin. They're only relevant because they can print money. They can make the SDR, they can make money out of thin air. You can't do that on a Bitcoin standard. It really takes us back to, what money should be, which is just money, not a surveillance mechanism and not a tool to, enforce your beliefs and economic policies on another nation.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And this one is on Blockstream, Bitcoin Lightning. Guys, I told you. We know Bitcoin Lightning is working behind that curtain, but it is coming out. Do you really think it's by chance that El Salvador, of course, is the ambassador of Bitcoin, and then they all of a sudden get attached to Bitcoin Lightning? $1 billion, people? Come on. $1 billion for a country that has about 6 million people in it? Come on, guys. This is all part of the plan. The New World Order is working this perfectly. And remember what I told you. Crypto means hidden message, and these cryptos are for the robots, algorithms, and drones. We know Blockstream is sending all those satellites up. But also, guys, it's very interesting what he said at the end, which we know is nothing but the Hegelian dialectic and was a straight-up lie. We know Bitcoin is not going to give the people freedom. We know that the Fed central banks run Bitcoin. If they're running dollars and we're transacting Bitcoin in dollars, who do you think is running Bitcoin? Come on, people. We know the whales is moving the market up and down. We know the control still stays in the same hands. Always has been. The big banks, big corporations have been funding cryptos from the beginning. And if you go back to Blockstream, it's the same thing. And then also, can Bitcoin hit 250,000 over the next 4 years? Of course it can. Remember I told you, it has to be attached to something, either gold or all of this metaverse, all of these robots, algorithms, and drones, and that's what it's looking like. Bitcoin and Ethereum as a commodity for AI. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Bitcoin getting crushed again. It is now off 16% since hitting all-time highs earlier this month. And what happens at your Thanksgiving dinner table may determine where Bitcoin goes next. Hedge fund manager Mark Yusko joins us to explain why. He runs Morgan Creek Capital Management and is the managing partner of Morgan Creek Digital. Mark, always good to see you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Way back when, it was at the Thanksgiving dinner table where people talked about Bitcoin. They started opening Coinbase accounts, and they sent the thing to a record high in short order. You think this happens again this time, given how hot NFTs are, and Dogecoin and Shibcoin, and you name it?
I do. I kind of like this pattern, Melissa. We tend to get together after these 20% drops. It happened in 2018, and I told the guys buy it when it went from 10 to 8. I think during the show that I was on, happened again last year. It was on with Sully the day after in the wee hours of Black Friday. Went from 21 to 17, and I said buy it. And I'll say the same thing now. We're down about 18% from the peak, and you should buy it. Now, what does that mean? I don't mean buy it all right now. I mean buy some today, buy some next week, buy some next month and the month after, and keep increasing your dollar cost averaging. This should be a core position in a long-term portfolio. It's the best performing asset this year, again, after being the best performing asset last year and the year before. So, all this discussion of the short-term price, I've said it on the show before, and I'll say it again. The price of Bitcoin doesn't matter. Price is a liar. What matters is owning a piece of the most powerful computing network the world has ever known. And you want to keep increasing your ownership.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can say it doesn't matter, but really, you believe that it's going to 250,000. So that doesn't hurt when making the case to buy Bitcoin, instead of just saying you want to own a piece of the most important computing network in the whole entire world in the course of mankind. So what gets us to 250 in 4 years? That's your call.
Yeah, so the 250 number is not just pulled out of the air. That is gold equivalents, the monetary value of gold equivalents. So total value of gold above ground is about 10 trillion. About half of that is jewelry and collectibles. The other half is the monetary value of gold. I think Bitcoin is digital gold. I think it'll easily get to that gold equivalence, which would be about $250,000 per coin. Beyond that, there's a very strong case that it could take on global M2 over many decades, but we don't need to talk about it. And the speculative price moved up into the high 60s, made new all-time highs. There are some even calling for 100 or even higher this year. I think that's certainly possible. I think, unfortunately, in this cycle, it got truncated a little bit. But your point, I think, is on the downside. Historically, after these up cycles, we saw 84% drawdowns in 2018 and 2015. I don't think we're going to see those depths of the bear market this time. I think there's so much institutional demand, so much increased use. I think the bear cycle will be lower. And back to the palindromes. You guys were talking about palindromes. The palindrome now is base. Bitcoin, Avalanche, Solana, Ethereum. You want to create a base in your portfolio of these critical infrastructure assets for the long term.
The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.